everyone, your board gamer is back with a new board game to be discussed with you later on. For today's video, I am going to discuss with you another famous board game called chess. I am going to share with you its brief origin, materials used, its scoring system, and how it is played. So, let's start the discussion. Traveling back to the 6th century, where the history of chess finds its origins in an Indian strategy game called Chaturanga, which translates as 4 divisions of the military: the infantry, cavalry, elephantry, and chariotry. The game then spread to Persia and then to Europe. Europe in the 15th century is where these forms are represented by the pieces that would evolve into the modern pawn, knight, bishop, and rook respectively. Chess tournaments began in the 19th century and the first ever world-class championship was held in 1856. The basic rules in chess is that it is a 2-player game where one player is assigned white pieces and the other black. Each player has 16 pieces to start the game: 1 king, 1 queen, 2 rooks, 2 bishops, 2 knights, and 8 pawns. In each chess piece, there are corresponding points. These points are used to determine the importance of a piece. The first piece is the pawn, which has the lowest value piece, and there are 8 pawns per player. A pawn may move forward 1 or 2 spaces. A pawn could capture an opponent's piece diagonally, either to the right or to the left on a forward motion. If a pawn makes it all the way to the opposite side of the board, they may be promoted into any other pieces except the king. The second piece is the knight. Along with the bishops, knights make up the minor pieces. A knight is worth 3 points. It is the only chess piece that can jump over other pieces as part of its normal move in an L-shaped direction. 2 spaces in one direction and then 1 piece perpendicular or vice versa. The knight could only capture if it landed on the opponent's piece. The third piece is the bishop. Like the knight, the bishop is also worth 3 points. This may move any number of spaces diagonally in any direction. The fourth piece is the rook. The piece is considered a major piece valued at 5 points. A rook may move along either ranks or files. To capture, the rook moves through unoccupied spaces and captures an opposing piece by occupying its space. The fifth piece is the queen. The queen is valued at 9 points. The queen may move in an unlimited unoccupied squares in any direction. The last piece is the king. It is the most important piece in chess. Thus, it should be protected while harassing an opponent. The king can move in any direction, but with only 1 square at a time. The king can never move into a square that's being attacked by an opponent's piece. This means that a king can never be adjacent to another king. Technically, the king is the only piece that is never captured in a game of chess. The objective of the game is to capture the other player's king. This capture is never actually completed, but once a king is under attack and unable to avoid capture, it is said to be checkmated and the game is over. The game is started in the position shown in this picture. The board consisting of 64 squares in an 8x8 grid. The white player moves first, then each player takes a single turn. In fact, a player must move in turn. In other words, a move cannot be skipped. A move consists of placing 1 piece on a different square, following the rules of movement for that piece. A player can take an opponent's piece by moving one of his or her own pieces to the square that contains an opponent's piece. The opponent's piece is removed from the board and is out of play for the rest of the game. If a king is threatened with capture but as a means to escape, then it is said to be in check. A king cannot move into check, and if in check, must move out of there immediately. There are 3 ways you may move out of check. First, Capture the checking piece. Second, block the line of attack by placing one of your own pieces between the checking piece and the king. Of course, a knight cannot be blocked. Third, move the king away from the check. The primary objective in chess is to checkmate your opponent's king. When a king cannot avoid capture, then it is checkmated, and the game is immediately over. The game is drawn when the player to move has no legal move and his king is not in check. The game is said to end in stalemate. This immediately ends the game. There are also special moves considered in chess: the castling, en passant, and pawn promotion. The game is won by the player who has checkmated his opponent's king or whose opponent declares he resigns. The game is drawn when the king of the player who has the move is not in check and this player cannot make any legal move. The player's king is then said to be stalemated. This immediately ends the game. The game is also drawn upon agreement between the two players. The game is also drawn when one of the following endings arises. First, king against king. Second, king against king with only bishop or knight. Third, king and bishop against king and bishop with both bishops on diagonal of the same color. The player to move can claim a draw if the same position with the same player to move is repeated 3 times in the game, or there have been 50 consecutive moves of white and of black without any piece taken or any pawn move. The game is lost by a player who has not completed the prescribed number of moves in the allotted time, unless his opponent has only the king remaining, in which case the game is drawn. Most tournament chess players are familiar with the traditional method of scoring in a chess tournament. The winning players in a traditional scoring are awarded a point, while draws are given a half point. This scoring system is most common among players. However, there have been many alternative systems attempted over the years. Some of these are not widely used scoring, wherein black wins 3 points, white wins 2 points, draws 1 point for black and 0 point for white. Losses score 0 point. Another is the 3-1-0 scoring, wherein each win is worth 3 points, while a draw is only 1 point. And losses are still worth 0. This also encourages fighting play, which means players who score a win and a loss are ranked above those who have scored 2 draws. This also prevents the players from drawing, which is coined the Balliard anti-draw point system. So that's all for today's video. Thank you for watching!